Hello everyone, Xander here. As we start this strange new quarter, ASWWU Outdoors wants to continue to help you connect with nature. Because many of us are under stay-at-home orders, getting out into the wilderness is not as possible as it used to be, and some of our favorite activities are no longer socially responsible because of their inherent risks or because of the travel required for them. Because we know you are thinking about the outdoors just as much as we are, we have started this podcast to share stories of adventure. For a few minutes each week, students and faculty will share their own stories to help you get your mind off of being cooped up at home. I'm your host, Xander Culver, and you are listening to Trail Tales. What do you do when you've broken both of your legs? You've broken your arm, it's getting dark, and you have no way to contact anyone. Our first story today is told by Dr. Brian Roth. He's the Dean of the Edward F. Cross School of Engineering here at Walla Walla University. Welcome, Dr. Roth.
All right. One of my most interesting outdoor experiences happened when I was working at Camp Wawona, a summer camp in Yosemite National Park. I was there for the summer working on the maintenance crew, and one of my jobs that summer was to run the sound for Saturday evening program where all the campers were featured. Saturday afternoons, I had the afternoon off, and one particular Saturday afternoon, the next to last Saturday night of the summer, my friends and I decided that we would like to go hiking. There's Chilnawalna Creek, which runs near the summer camp. So we headed up the trail, pretty steep trail, which parallels the stream, deep ravine, and the stream below. We had a great afternoon, went out and explored a series of pools as we climbed higher. And at one of those pools, we were a bit chagrined to discover that there's a whole group of folks, no clothes. A group of nudists, and they were excited to see us. We were not quite as excited to see them. They were encouraging us to come swimming in the pool with them. We thanked them and moved on quickly. Climbed higher. It got later in the afternoon and just about supper time, and so we headed back down the trail. We'd all packed a sack lunch, but I brought mine along. And so I decided I was going to stay out a bit longer while my friends went back to camp. On the other side of the creek, the other side of the ravine from the trail, there were 3 rock spires just begging to be climbed. I enjoyed scrambling. I enjoyed climbing. It looked like a great place to climb up to the top of these and have my picnic supper. They're probably 25 to 30 feet tall. So I scrambled down the ravine across the river and up the other side, and it looked like the easiest access to the top of the spires was on the back side. So from a granite base, I started climbing. Just had my hiking boots on, so wasn't really well prepared for climbing, but I thought I'd just scramble up. I was up about 15 feet or so, and I went to reach for a handhold, and at that instant, my boot slipped, and I quickly found myself falling. As I fell, I turned in midair, so I'd land facing forward instead of on my back. And when I landed on all fours, feet first and then hands as well. And it immediately felt a twinge of pain. Didn't think it was serious, but I thought at least I'd roll onto my back and give my feet a moment or two to rest and recover. And then I could shake it off and get back up. Well, I waited a minute or two. Things felt all right. I rolled over to get up, and it was at that moment that I realized I'd broken both legs. turns out I'd basically pulverized my calcaneus bone, my heel bone. So, well, I wasn't going anywhere. So I rolled back on my back to think about it for a bit. I was out of sight of the river, out of sight of the trail, so I knew I'd probably need to crawl to a spot where I could be seen and found. So as I started to crawl on hands and knees, I realized that not only were my feet broken, but my left arm was broken as well. So I dropped to knees and elbows and crawled about 50 feet or so down past the end of the rock spires to a ledge where I could look out across the ravine, across the river, and see the trail. It was about 6:30 or so in the evening. I knew I'd be all right. Be a little cold, but I wasn't too worried. And I sat to wait. And then I remembered, hey, we had some company. Didn't see anyone coming down the trail, but I remembered that there was a group of nudists that we'd met at the pool higher up. Well, at that moment, I was happy to see anyone, nudists or not, clothing or not. So I yelled for a while, and alas, no one heard me, not even that group. So I settled in to wait. Campfire came at Camp Wona, and of course I wasn't there to run the sound, so my friends knew pretty quick. In fact, everyone knew pretty quick that something was wrong. So after campfire that night, as I expected, my friends came looking for me. Now everyone wanted in on the adventure of finding me, so about 9:30 or so, as I was lying there on the ground, I saw a long line of flashlights coming up the trail, other side of the ravine. I kind of laughed because 2 or 3 were sufficient, but there was probably 20 or 30 people along for the adventure. They found me. I waved across the ravine. But the next challenge was how to get across. Far too steep for me to crawl out, probably too steep for someone to carry me. So the rock climbing instructor spent the evening rigging up a zip line across the ravine. And first thing in the morning, they loaded me up on a stretcher and zipped me across the river, where a group of Yosemite National Park rangers were waiting to carry me out. Now they thought for a bit about sending a helicopter. That would have been an added adventure, but the canyon was too narrow, it was too rugged, so they stretchered me out and took me by ambulance down the hill. So I missed the last week of summer camp, alas, and I had about 6 weeks until I was scheduled to start my freshman year at Walla University. So what was I going to do for 6 weeks? Well, I ordered a religion course by correspondence, something to occupy my time, which I easily finished before school started. And I spent the next 6 weeks in a wheelchair, learning how to do wheelies in the wheelchair. My first day at Walla University was my first day out of the wheelchair, first day on crutches. Now I was scheduled for a room on the 4th floor of Sittner Hall, and after it took me 25 minutes to get there, the deans quickly swapped me with another person and gave me a ground floor room. So I was grateful for that. That first year was interesting. I was quite busy between classes and multiple trips per week to the physical therapist, but I found that life on crutches had some perks. It was a great way to get to know people. So that was my story of adventure from Yosemite National Park.
I love it. What's your favorite thing to do in the outdoors? What's your favorite outdoor activity?
My favorite outdoor activity is definitely backpacking, preferably in the mountains.
How'd you get into backpacking?
I was kind of dragged into it when I was in high school and slowly collected gear and equipment and experience.
What's your favorite trail you've backpacked?
It's hard to pick a favorite. I've had a chance to hike in the Andes and hike in the Alps. Of course, hiked in the Cascades in the Sierra Nevadas and the Rockies. I've even hiked in the Himalayas.
Wow.
And I think all of them have distinctive features that make them a lot of fun.
What's one special piece of gear you always take with you? Something like you don't want to be caught without.
Sure. My favorite piece of equipment is a little whimsical, but it is my Thermarest chair.
Hey, those are great.
Indeed, my Thermarest chair goes with me everywhere.
How do you think we can use the outdoors to make the world a better place?
Well, I think probably that starts with using the outdoors to make ourselves better people. There's certain sense of peace and tranquility that I find in the outdoors. There's definitely a sense of perspective, puts everything else in perspective. It reminds me of how small I am and how big the universe is. It gives me a sense of God's presence, and I hope that those experiences make me a better person, and I hope as a result that I can help make the world a better place.
This is one of my favorite questions. What is the best sunrise you've ever experienced?
Well, I try to avoid sunrises. I'm a night owl. But I have a number of favorite sunsets. But to be honest, I think my favorite sunrise and sunset probably came when camping on the side of Mount Rainier. I distinctly remember one trip where we spent an extra day on the side of Rainier waiting for the winds to die down so we could summit. Just amazing sunrises and sunsets. Yeah, from about 11,000 feet up on the side.
I guess this is my last question. What are some future outdoor goals you have?
I think I have two goals, one family-oriented and one more personal. My family-oriented goal is to get my daughter excited about backpacking and about the outdoors. That's pretty important to me right now. And I anticipate for this summer that will take the form of some more day hikes in the Wallowas. We did a pretty decent hike last summer, and she was a trooper. So I'm looking forward to taking her back. We'll probably car camp, but my goal is to work her up to a little backpacking trip here in the next year or two. So that's a family-oriented goal. And then a personal goal would be that I would like to climb Mount Robson.
Ooh.
That is an epic climb, one that's not done very often, but probably when Julia, my daughter, is a little older and I can start to get back to some personal adventure goals, that's one on my list.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Roth. That was incredible. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for the opportunity to share the story. Indeed, I look forward to more adventures, and I wish adventures for each of our listeners as well.
Wow. Broken legs, nudists, a zip line. What an adventure.